The knife pressed against my neck wasn't the shock. It was my daughter's ex, Blake, whispering, "You're useless, old man," while my wife stood frozen in the hallway, clutching something that made my blood run cold. 2 hours earlier, I'd been asleep in my recliner, dreaming about Afghanistan. Not the bad parts. The quiet parts. The stars over the Kandahar desert. Then glass shattered. Hit like, subscribe for more betrayal stories, and comment your city or country. My daughter Clara's voice had been different since she left Blake 6 months ago. Thinner. Like someone had taken sandpaper to her confidence. She called me every Sunday at 7 p.m. sharp. Last night, she didn't call. I should have known then. Should have felt it in my gut like that time in Kabul when the silence meant the Taliban had moved up their timeline. Fiona, my wife of 23 years, shook me awake. "Victor, there's someone in the house." I reached for my service pistol before remembering I'd locked it in the safe after my grandson visited. The Recon man in me cataloged everything. The creak of the third stair, the way the living room light cast shadows, the smell of cheap whiskey and expensive cologne. Blake always wore that cologne, even when he couldn't afford it. "Stay here," I whispered to Fiona. She grabbed my arm, her nails digging in. "Don't," he said. "Hill." The door kicked open. Not hard. Measured. Like someone who'd practiced. Blake stood there, my grandson's night light in his left hand, a military-grade K-bar knife in his right. The kind we issued in recon training. The kind I'd taught 17-year-old soldiers to disarm in under 3 seconds. "Evening, Professor." He'd always called me that, even though I wasn't a professor. I'd been a master sergeant. Taught reconnaissance at Fort Benning. But Blake liked to diminish things. "Get your useless ass downstairs. We need to talk about what you owe me." Behind him, Fiona made a sound I'd never heard in 23 years. A whimper. Not of fear. Of recognition. Like she'd known this moment was coming. I kept my hands visible. Old recon habit. "Blake, put the knife down. Clara's not here. You know that." He advanced, the blade catching light from the hallway. "Clara's not the point anymore. The point is you. You and your perfect little soldier stories. Your perfect family. You think you're so goddamn special because you taught some boys how to crawl in the mud." The knife tip touched my throat. Not pressing. Just resting. I could feel my pulse against cold steel. 17 years teaching recon, and I'd trained myself to stay calm in situations exactly like this. But teaching isn't living. The classroom has rules. Blake had thrown away the rulebook the day he got dishonorably discharged. "Blake, you don't want to do this. They'll find you. Military police, federal who? Your old buddies." He laughed, spitting whiskey breath in my face. "They're not coming for me. They're coming for you." Fiona stepped forward, something white clutched in her hand. "Papers. Bank statements." Her voice trembled but determined. "I gave you what you wanted. Now leave him alone." Blake's eyes never left mine. "Oh, Fiona, we're way past money. This is about legacy. About what your perfect husband did to my father." My blood turned to ice. I hadn't thought about Colonel Mitchell in 12 years. The court-martial. The classified testimony. The way Mitchell's career had disintegrated after I provided recon logs proving he'd ordered civilian surveillance that got 3 of my men killed. Fiona reached for Blake's arm. "Please. He doesn't know." "Doesn't know?" Blake's voice cracked. "He knows everything. That's his problem. He knows and he judges. Like he's God." The knife pressed harder. I felt skin break. A warm trickle down my neck. In my mind, I ran through the disarm sequence I'd taught 10,000 times. Step left, grab wrist. Pressure point at the base of the thumb. Rotate, control. But Fiona was too close. One wrong move, and he'd pivot to her. My grandson's nightlight cast Blake's shadow huge against the wall. I watched that shadow, not the man. Another recon trick. The shadow tells the truth about movement before the body does. "You're going to transfer the deed to this house tomorrow," Blake said. "And you're going to sign a statement admitting you falsified those recon reports about my father. Or I show the world what your precious daughter really is." Clara. He had something on Clara. The bruises she'd hidden with makeup. The way she'd flinched when I hugged her last Christmas. The midnight phone calls that left her shaking. Fiona stepped closer, the papers shaking in her hand. I already transferred the money, Blake. 50,000. It's all we have. Not enough. He finally looked at her, and his face softened in a way that made me want to kill him. Not with violence. With the truth. You know what I really want, Fiona. You know what'll make this all go away. She went pale. The papers fell from her hand, scattering on the hardwood. I caught a glimpse. Bank of America wire transfer. $50,000. To an offshore account. Dated 3 days ago. 3 days before Blake kicked in my door with a knife. The Recon man in me connected dots. The timing. The money. The way Fiona had been sleeping in the guest room for a month, claiming insomnia. The way she'd stopped asking about my day. Blake followed my gaze. See? Your wife knows the deal. Your whole perfect life is bought and paid for. But the price just went up. He lowered the knife. Not much. Just enough to breathe without feeling steel. Then he did something that made less sense than the break-in itself. He handed me my grandson's nightlight. The little rocket ship that projected stars on the ceiling. I'd bought it for his 4th birthday. Tell you what, Professor. Blake's voice dropped to something almost human. I'll give you 24 hours. Get your affairs in order. Say goodbye to your grandson. Because tomorrow night, I'm taking everything. And you're going to help me do it. He backed toward the door, knife still up, but not threatening. Fiona made a move like she might follow him. I grabbed her wrist. She felt brittle, like bird bones. At the doorway, Blake paused. Oh, and Victor? That safe in your office? The one with your service record and those commendation letters? I already opened it. You should really use better locks. Then he was gone. Not running. Walking. Like he owned the night. Fiona collapsed against me, sobbing. I held her, feeling the shape of her shoulder blades, counting her vertebrae like I'd count enemy positions. But my eyes were on the papers scattered across the floor. The wire transfer. The dates. The way my wife had just negotiated with a man holding a knife to my throat. And I thought about what he'd said. About my recon class. About what I'd supposedly done to his father. About the safe he'd opened without me hearing a thing. 17 years teaching soldiers how to be ghosts. How to move through enemy territory without leaving a trace. Blake had just shown me he was a better student than I'd ever been a teacher. Fiona, I whispered, my voice sounding like someone else's. What did you give him? She pulled back, her face streaked with tears. I had to Victor. He said he'd kill Clara. He said he'd tell everyone about. She stopped. Her eyes went wide with something worse than fear. With shame. Tell everyone what? The phone rang. Not my cell. The landline we kept for emergencies. The one only family had the number for. Fiona's hands shook as she answered. Listened. Then she looked at me with eyes I'd never seen before. Eyes that had given up keeping secrets. It's Clara, she said. She's at the hospital. Blake beat her unconscious 3 hours ago. Before he came here. While you were sleeping in your chair, dreaming about Afghanistan. The recon man in me calculated. The timeline. The distance. The impossibility of Blake being in 2 places at once. Unless there were 2 of him. Unless I'd been teaching the wrong enemy for 17 years. Fiona handed me the phone. Clara's voice came through, bruised and broken. Dad? Don't come. He wants you to come. It's a trap. In the background, I heard a man's voice. Not Blake's. Older. Authoritative. Familiar. A voice from my recon class. From 2008. From the mission that got 3 of my men killed. The voice of a ghost I'd helped bury 12 years ago. Tell your father, the voice said, that Colonel Mitchell says class is back in session. The phone went dead. Fiona stared at me, waiting for the man she'd married to fix this. But the man she'd married had just realized something that made the knife at my throat feel like a love tap. The break-in wasn't the attack. It was the reconnaissance. And phase 2 was about to begin. Fiona's face had gone white, but her eyes held something worse than shock, recognition. She knew that voice. The voice of Colonel Mitchell, a man who'd been dead for 12 years, according to every official record I'd helped seal. Victor, I need to tell you, she started, but I was already moving. Recon training doesn't leave you. It becomes muscle memory. I yanked open the hall closet, pulled out my old duffel, the one with the combination lock I'd changed every month since retirement. Inside, buried under folded uniforms and commendation letters, was my recon journal. 17 years of names, faces, incidents. Every student, every lesson, every mission that went sideways. The phone rang again. Not the landline. My cell this time. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. A mistake. In recon, you never accept contact on their terms. Master Sergeant Hayes? The voice was female, professional, clipped. This is Detective Morgan from the State Police. We have a situation at Memorial Hospital. Your daughter Clara is refusing treatment. She's asking for you, but there's a complication. I gripped the phone harder. What kind of complication? She's got a restraining order against her. Filed yesterday. By Blake Carter. Claims she assaulted him. The world narrowed to a pinpoint. Yesterday, while Fiona was wiring Blake $50,000. While he was planning his visit to my house, he'd filed a restraining order against his victim to keep her from talking. I'm on my way, I said, already grabbing my keys. Fiona blocked the door. Victor, you can't. Blake said if we involve the police. Blake just put my daughter in the hospital and used the legal system to lock her out of getting help. I looked at my wife, really looked at her, and saw a stranger wearing familiar skin. Either move, Fiona, or explain to me why you're protecting him. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Good. Honest emotion after whatever theater she'd been performing. I'll drive, she whispered. We didn't speak for the 12 minutes it took to reach Memorial. Couldn't. The silence was full of landmines. At a red light, I caught her staring at my duffel bag, specifically at the lock. Her fingers twitched like she was working out a combination in her head. How did he know about the safe? I asked. The one in my office. How did Blake know exactly which documents to take? Her knuckles went white on the steering wheel. I told you. He was here. You told him, didn't you? No answer. The light turned green. The hospital loomed ahead, white and sterile as a lie. Inside, the fluorescent lights hummed with that particular frequency that makes your teeth hurt. A nurse with tired eyes pointed us to room 117. The door was guarded by a uniformed officer. Young, maybe 25. He straightened when he saw me, something flickering in his eyes. Master Sergeant Hayes? He asked. I stopped. Do I know you? Private Riders, sir. Fort Benning, 2018. Your recon class. You taught me about reading terrain in urban environments. His hand drifted to his sidearm. Sir, I need to inform you. There's been a development. Blake Carter just checked himself into the ER. 2 floors up. Claims your daughter attacked him with a knife. The same knife he'd held to my throat 2 hours ago. The K-bar. Military issue. Fiona made a choking sound. I didn't react. In recon, you learn that reaction gives away position. But inside, the calculations were spinning. Timeline. Motive. Opportunity. Blake was building a fortress of lies, and every brick was placed to isolate us from help. Let me see my daughter, I said. Ryder hesitated. Sir, the restraining order. I'm not violating it. I'm visiting a patient. Last I checked, that's still legal. He stepped aside. Inside, Clara looked small against the white sheets. Her left eye was swollen shut, purple and angry. Her right hand was wrapped in bandages. When she saw me, she started crying without making a sound. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I sat on the edge of her bed, careful of the 4-line. Tell me everything. Start from the beginning. Not the parts you think matter. All of it. She took a shaky breath. He started coming around 3 months ago. Said he wanted to apologize. To make things right. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. Fiona stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Clara, you shouldn't have. Shut up, Mom. Clara's voice was steel under the pain. You don't get to talk. You've been paying him. I saw the bank statements. You think you're the only one he was blackmailing. The room went silent except for the beeping monitor. I looked at Fiona. She looked at the floor. Mom had an affair, Clara said, each word a small explosion. With Blake's father. 12 years ago. That's what he's holding over her. But that's not the real secret. Fiona's head snapped up. Clara, don't. The real secret is why Blake's father killed himself. Clara's good eye locked on mine. He didn't kill himself, Dad. You know that. You were there. Memory flooded back. Fort Benning, 2013. Colonel Mitchell found in his car. Exhaust fumes, sealed windows. Official cause, suicide. But the Recon man in me had seen the inconsistencies. The lack of psychological precursors. The way his personal effects were too neatly arranged. I'd filed a supplemental report suggesting foul play. It was buried. Someone had buried it. Blake thinks I killed his father, I said slowly. Or helped cover it up. He doesn't think, Clara corrected. He knows. And the person who told him is the same person who signed off on Dad's retirement papers. The same person who approved Blake's discharge as psychologically unfit instead of dishonorable. She reached under her pillow, wincing with the movement, and pulled out a folded document. Military psych evaluation. Blake Carter. Diagnosis: obsessive revenge fantasy. Delusions of persecution. Recommendation: dishonorable discharge and psychiatric hold. The signature at the bottom made my breath catch. Colonel Julian Vance. My oldest friend. The man who'd written my commendation letters. Who'd helped me bury the truth about Mitchell. The door opened. Detective Morgan entered, her face grim. Mr. Hayes, we have a problem. Blake Carter is requesting a victim's advocate and a military liaison. He's claiming you're harassing him. And he's produced evidence. She held up a plastic evidence bag. Inside were photos. Me, at Fort Benning, training soldiers. Recent photos. From last month. Last week. Yesterday. Someone with base access had been documenting my routine. Someone who knew my schedule, my routes, my habits. Someone I'd taught to be invisible. I need you to come with me, Morgan said. Just for questions. Standard procedure. As I stood, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Not Blake. This number had a Virginia area code. The message contained a single image. My Recon journal, open to the page about Colonel Mitchell. The page where I'd documented my suspicions about his murder. The page I'd shown to only one person 17 years ago, during a late-night conversation about ethics and duty. The person I'd mentored. The person who'd become a federal judge. The person who'd just texted me. Check your porch. Package arrived. Don't open it with Fiona around. I looked at Fiona. At Clara. At Detective Morgan. In Recon, they teach you about multi-vector threats. Never focus on the obvious enemy. The knife is a distraction. The real weapon is the information. And someone had just weaponized my own journal against me. 1 minute, I told Morgan. I need to call my lawyer. I stepped into the hall, dialing the number from memory. Adrian Mitchell, military law specialist. We'd served together. He'd defended men I'd trained. He answered on the first ring. Victor, he said, no greeting. Don't talk. Just listen. Blake's not working alone. His father had a partner. Someone high up. Someone who wants your Recon files from 2008 through 2013. All of them. The classified ones. Why? Because those files don't just prove Mitchell's war crimes. They prove the partner's crimes too. And Blake thinks you have them. I don't. You do? You just don't remember. The night Mitchell died, you were drugged. Someone extracted information from you. Your Recon logs. Your mission reports. They've been reconstructing them for 12 years. And now they think you remember. My head spun. The package on my porch. The photos. The wire transfer. Fiona's affair. None of it was random. It was all reconstruction. Someone rebuilding my past, piece by piece, using my own wife and daughter as leverage. Adrian's voice dropped. Victor, that package on your porch? It's not from Blake. It's from me. But Blake's watching your house. If you bring it inside, Fiona will see it. And Fiona can't know what's inside. Not yet. Why not? Because the only person who could have helped Blake plan this operation is the person sleeping in your guest room for the past month. The line went dead. I stood in the hospital hallway, the psych eval in my hand, photos of me training soldiers spread on the floor, and my wife's confession hanging in the air like cordite. 17 years teaching reconnaissance. 17 years making soldiers invisible. I'd never taught them how to spot the enemy who shares your bed. Detective Morgan touched my shoulder. Mr. Hayes? Your lawyer. I looked at her. At Private Ryder, still guarding Clara's door. At Fiona, who'd just lied to me for months. My lawyer's office was firebombed an hour ago, I said, the words tasting like ash. Adrian Mitchell is dead. Morgan's face went slack. How did you? Because Blake just sent me a photo of the crime scene. With a message, next person who helps you loses everything. Starting with your grandson. My phone buzzed again. Another image. This time, it showed my house. My porch. The package Adrian had sent. And a gloved hand, reaching for it. The hand wore a wedding ring I knew intimately. The inscription inside, VNF, forever. Fiona's hand. The Recon man in me finally understood. The operation wasn't about Blake. Blake was the distraction. The real enemy had been running logistics from inside my home for 3 months. And I had 17 years of recon training to figure out who was pulling her strings before my entire family became casualties of a war I'd thought ended 12 years ago. Fiona's wedding ring glinted in the hospital fluorescent light as she reached for the package. I watched her fingers, fingers that had held my hand through 2 deployments, through Clara's birth, through my retirement ceremony, now working with the precision of someone who'd rehearsed this moment. The recon man in me saw it, the practiced movement, the lack of hesitation, the way her body blocked the camera angle. Don't, I said, but my voice barely carried. She froze, hand hovering over the package. Detective Morgan's radio crackled with static. All units, we have a 10 to 54 at 1473 Oak Street. Reports of a fire. Possible homicide. Adrian's address. Fiona's breath hitched, but she didn't turn. Didn't look at me. Mr. Hayes, Morgan said. I need you to come with me. Now. I stepped toward Fiona, close enough to smell her perfume. The same scent she'd worn for 23 years. The scent that had been in my office when I came home early last Tuesday. The scent that shouldn't have been there because she'd been at her sister's house. Whose ring is that? I asked, quiet enough that only she could hear. Her left hand trembled. The ring, the one I'd picked out at a jewelry store in Columbus, inscribed with our initials, wasn't the same. The inscription was wrong. VNF forever had become VNF until duty ends. Victor, please, she whispered. Let me explain. You've been explaining for 3 months. Every lie was an explanation. Morgan touched my arm. Sir, we have to go. I let her guide me down the hall, but my eyes stayed on Fiona. She didn't follow. She stood there, hand over the package, face a mask I'd never learned to read. The recon man in me cataloged it as a tactical pause. She was waiting for something. Or someone. In the patrol car, Morgan didn't cuff me. That was a good sign. Or a bad one. In recon, good signs often meant you'd walked into the kill zone. We're not going to the station, she said, pulling into traffic. We're going to the VA hospital. Someone there needs to talk to you. Someone who says he taught you. The VA hospital was 40 minutes away. Morgan drove in silence, letting the road noise fill the space where questions should have been. I watched the side mirror. A black SUV 3 cars back. Maintaining distance. Professional spacing. I committed the plate to memory. D4REN, Darien. Not a standard plate. Vanity. Someone who wanted to be remembered. At the VA, a nurse led us to a private room on the secured floor. The man in the bed had tubes in his arms and oxygen in his nose, but his eyes were the same sharp blue I remembered from Fort Benning. Colonel Julian Vance. My mentor. My friend. The man who'd signed off on Blake Carter's discharge papers. Victor, he said, voice like gravel in a cement mixer. Knew you'd come. Knew she'd bring you. Morgan stepped outside, closing the door. Vance motioned me closer. Up close, I saw what the tubes hid. The yellowing skin. The sunken eyes. Cancer. Stage 4 by my guess. How long? I asked. Long enough to watch my own funeral being planned. Blake's planning it. Wants to make it look like I killed myself. Like my father did. The word hung between us. Father. Colonel Mitchell was your father, I said. Not a question. The final piece clicking into place. Vance's laugh turned into a cough that brought up blood. Stepfather. Blake never knew. I kept it quiet. Protected the family name. But Blake found the adoption papers. The ones Fiona helped me hide. My legs went loose. I sat hard in the chair. Fiona knew? Fiona was my secretary. Before you married her. Before Mitchell died. She was there. She typed the reports. She knew about the war crimes. The civilian surveillance. The 3 men you lost. He grabbed my wrist, his grip surprisingly strong. She's not helping Blake, Victor. She's containing him. The money? The wire transfers? That's her buying time. Buying your life. The room tilted. 17 years of marriage. 17 years of secrets. Why didn't she tell me? Because I told her not to. Because Blake swore he'd kill you if she broke cover. Because he's not just after revenge. Vance's voice dropped to a whisper. He's after your Recon files. The classified ones from 2008. The mission logs. The ones that prove Mitchell wasn't working alone. I thought about my safe. The one Blake opened. The documents inside. Commendations. Service record. And one file I'd forgotten about. One I'd been ordered to create by someone higher than Mitchell. Someone who wanted a record of Mitchell's movements. Insurance. Who was his partner? I asked. Vance's grip tightened. Check your class of 2008. The student who graduated top of Recon but never served. The one who went into intelligence instead. The one who signed Blake's immunity papers last week. The door opened. Morgan stuck her head in. Mr. Hayes, you need to see this. Now. She handed me a tablet. Video feed. My house. The living room. My grandson's bedroom. And in the basement, a figure moving through shadows with practiced ease. A figure wearing my old Recon gear. The gear I'd stored in the garage. The figure looked up at the camera. Not Blake. A woman. Young. Dark hair pulled back. Military posture. She held up a sign written on cardboard. Your grandson is safe. For now. Check your daughter's car. Glove box. Code 1776. The feed cut. Replaced by a new video. Blake's face filled the screen. He wasn't in the hospital anymore. He was in a room I recognized. My basement. Victor, he said, smiling. Your grandson is with friends. You met one of them today? Private Ryder. Good kid. Loyal. Loyal to the right cause, that is. He moved the camera. My grandson sat on my basement couch, eating cereal, looking scared but unharmed. A man's hand rested on his shoulder. A hand with a ring. The same ring Fiona had been wearing. V&F until duty ends. But here's the thing, Blake continued. Your wife has been running this operation for 3 months. Not me. I'm just the knife. She's the hand that holds it. And if you want to see your grandson again, you'll bring me those Recon files. All of them. The ones from 2008. The ones with the signatures. You have 12 hours. The video ended. Morgan stared at me. Mr. Hayes, where are those files? I looked at Vance. He mouthed one word. Lila. My daughter's middle name. The name we'd never used. The name on a safety deposit box I'd opened in 2008. The day I filed the supplemental report about Mitchell's death. The day I became an insurance policy against my own superiors. My grandson, I said to Morgan. He's at my house. In the basement. With a man wearing my ring. I need to get there before Fiona does. Why before Fiona? Because she's not going there to save him. I stood, my Recon training finally catching up to reality. She's going there to complete the mission. And in her world, I'm the target that needs eliminating. The black SUV from earlier pulled into the VA parking lot. Morgan saw it too. Friend of yours? The enemy, I said. That I taught to be invisible. We ran for the emergency exit. Behind us, Vance pressed a button on his bed. An alarm sounded. Security doors locked. He was buying us time with the only currency he had left. As we burst into the alley, my phone buzzed. Fiona. Text message. I'm at the house. Your grandson is safe. But we need to talk about the files. Alone. If Morgan comes, he dies. Attached was a photo. Fiona in my basement, holding my grandson. Behind her, on my workbench, sat a device I recognized from my Recon days. A remote detonator. The kind used to trigger explosions from a distance. The kind I taught 17-year-old soldiers to build in 2008. The photo of Fiona holding that detonator rewired my pulse. 17 years teaching soldiers to think 3 moves ahead, and I'd missed the enemy infiltrating my own command structure. Detective Morgan saw my face change. That's your house, she said, not asking. And that's my wife holding my grandson next to enough explosive compound to remove the foundation. I forced my voice steady. She's not bluffing. Blake taught her how to build that. I taught him in 2019. Morgan grabbed her radio, but I caught her wrist. No units. He sees lights, he triggers it. Fiona's not the one holding the button. She's the message. What are you talking about? Look at her thumb. I zoomed the photo with my fingers. It's not on the trigger. It's hovering. She's waiting for permission to lower it. Permission from whoever's holding the real trigger. The black SUV's engine revved. Not leaving. Just repositioning for better visual on the hospital exit. Professional surveillance. I taught that technique in week 3 of Recon training. Detective, you need to get to Judge Logan Pierce. He's the only one who can authorize a no-knock entry without alerting the subject. How do you? Because Logan was my student. Class of 2008. Top of Recon. But he didn't go into the field. He went into law. And he's been waiting 12 years for this case to land on his desk. I turned toward the alley exit. Morgan called after me. Where are you going? To give them what they want. I held up my phone. The files. They think I have them. I need to get them before Fiona's permission runs out. The files weren't in my house. They'd never been there. That safe Blake opened was a decoy, standard Recon protocol. The real documents were in a safety deposit box at First Federal, registered under a name I'd almost forgotten, Lila Hayes. My daughter's middle name, used only on her birth certificate. The box required 2 keys and a code. The code was 1776. Clara's car was parked in the hospital garage, level 3. I found it in 30 seconds. Recon men don't search, they locate. The glove box held an envelope. Inside, a key and a note in Fiona's handwriting. Victor, I'm sorry. Don't trust Vance. He was there that night. Check the box. Then run. The second key was taped behind the envelope flap. I'd given it to Clara on her 18th birthday. Told her it was for emergencies. Told her the code was the year of American independence. She'd rolled her eyes, called me a sentimental soldier. I was at the bank when it opened at 9 a.m. The manager was a woman named Paige, early 30s, nervous hands. I placed both keys on the counter. Box 1776. She didn't ask for ID, just nodded, like she'd been expecting me. That was bad. In Recon, predictable gets you killed. The box contained a single flash drive and a journal. Not my Recon journal. Fiona's. Dates going back 12 years. Entries about Mitchell. About Vance. About a night in 2013 when she'd been called to the base to handle paperwork and found Mitchell dead in his car. About the men who'd arrived before the official report. Men who'd promised her safety, promotions for her husband, a clean life for her daughter, in exchange for silence and cooperation. The last entry was dated 3 months ago. They activated Blake. He's unstable. Victor's life is in danger. I have to play along. I have to be the villain. It's the only way to keep him alive long enough to find the evidence. The flash drive held audio files. Dozens of them. Phone calls. One voice dominated. Vance. Giving orders. Arranging payments. Coordinating with someone he called the partner. The partner who wanted my Recon files. Not to hide them. To use them. To train a private army. My phone buzzed. Fiona. A video this time. She was no longer in the basement. She was in my Recon classroom at the abandoned Fort Benning training facility. My grandson sat on a desk, drawing. Behind them, A chalkboard held names. My students. Class of 2008. Logan Pierce. Adrian Mitchell. Hunter, now Detective Hunter, I realized. And one name circled in red, Violet. The camera panned. Blake stood in the corner, not holding the detonator. The woman from the basement video did. Violet. Young. Dark hair. Military posture. She looked at the camera and spoke. Master Sergeant Hayes, your wife is very brave. But bravery doesn't defuse C4. Bring the files to your classroom. You have 1 hour. If anyone follows you, the building comes down. And we all become ghosts. The video ended. A text followed. Don't call Morgan. Don't call Logan. Come alone. And Victor? Bring Fiona's journal. The real one. We know she gave you the decoy. I looked at the journal in my hands. The one that painted Fiona as a victim. Then I looked closer. The binding was modern. The pages too crisp. This wasn't 12 years old. This was 3 months. A prop. A script. The real journal would have wear. Coffee stains. Tears. It would be messy. Human. I called Morgan. She answered on the first ring. Don't speak, I said. Just listen. Fiona's not the asset. She's the handler. But she's being handled by someone higher. Someone who knows Recon. Someone who taught me. Who? I thought about the voice on the phone. Colonel Mitchell. Dead 12 years. But Recon men die all the time. Sometimes officially. Sometimes they just become ghosts. Get to the Fort Benning training facility. The old classroom. But don't approach. Just watch. And Morgan? Bring a thermal scanner. If I'm right, there's someone in that building who won't show up on any camera. As I hung up, another text arrived. Unknown number. Not Blake. Not Fiona. Not Violet. Don't be late, Victor. Your grandson is asking when Grandpa's going to teach him Recon. He wants to learn how to be invisible, like his teacher. The number had a Virginia prefix. Quantico. The FBI Academy. The final message read, Agent Violet Carter. Counterintelligence. Your daughter's ex isn't the target. He's the bait. You're the target. And your wife is the operation. Welcome to the real war. The Virginia number called before I could process Agent Violet's message. Master Sergeant Hayes, this is Judge Logan Pierce. We have a problem. The warrant I issued for Blake Carter's arrest. It was voided 20 minutes ago. Someone filed an injunction claiming you're the subject of a federal investigation. They produced evidence. Classified Recon files. With your signature. My signature. On documents I'd never seen. Logan, where are you? Not at the courthouse. Not safe there. I'm at the old Recon training facility. The one you closed in 2015. Blake's here. He's got your grandson. And he's wired the building with enough explosives to erase every lesson you ever taught. The line went dead. I was running before Morgan could ask questions. My truck still had the Fort Benning decal on the windshield. Got me through the gate without stopping. The training facility was a 40-year-old building scheduled for demolition. I'd fought to keep it open, called it a living museum of reconnaissance. Now it was about to become a tomb. I parked 300 meters out, Recon protocol. Approached through the tree line, using the same path I'd taught students for 17 years. The building looked abandoned. Windows boarded. Roof sagging. But the door was new. Steel. Electronic lock. My phone buzzed. Blake. Live video feed. Inside, my grandson sat at my old desk, crayon scattered. Fiona stood behind him, hands on his shoulders. Not restraining. Protecting. Blake paced in front of the chalkboard, wearing my old Recon instructor's uniform. The name tag, Hayes. Come on in, Professor. Doors open. The lock clicked. I pushed through. The classroom smelled of chalk dust and old wood. Exactly as I remembered. Blake had recreated it perfectly. Even the motivational posters. The enemy who knows your routine lives in your shadow. I'd hung that one in 2008. Where's the detonator? I asked, keeping my voice level. Blake smiled. Violet has it. She's in the basement. With the real explosives. What you see here. He gestured at the walls. Hollywood. Props. This is theater. The real operation is beneath your feet. Fiona's eyes met mine. She mouthed, Play along. Blake pulled out a file folder. Your Recon logs. 2008 through 2013. The classified ones. Sign them over to me. Official transfer. Then Fiona and the kid walk. Those files don't exist. I destroyed them. Wrong. Blake opened the folder. Inside were photos. Not documents. Photos of documents. Spread on a desk I recognized. My desk. In my house. Taken through a window. You've been scanning them. Digitizing them. For a memoir. Fiona helped. She's been uploading them to a cloud server. We have everything. My blood pressure spiked. The memoir. I'd started it last year. Fiona encouraged it. For the family, she'd said. So they know your story. She'd set up the scanner. Created the files. Named the folders. She'd been building the case against me while I typed my own confession. Sign the transfer, Blake said, sliding a document across the desk. Or Violet gets creative with the C4. I looked at the document. It wasn't a transfer. It was a confession, admitting I'd falsified Recon reports, covered up Mitchell's war crimes, ordered civilian surveillance. Everything Mitchell had actually done, now attributed to me. You're not doing this for revenge, I said slowly. You're doing this for clearance. You want my record expunged, so you can re-enlist, so you can finish what your father started. Blake's smile vanished. My father was a patriot. You made him a criminal. No, he made himself a criminal. I just documented it. Fiona stepped forward. Victor, sign it. Please. It's the only way. I looked at my grandson. He'd stopped coloring. He was watching me with eyes that trusted completely. The same way Clara used to watch me before she learned the world had teeth. Where's the real Fiona? I asked Blake. He blinked. What? The woman who slept next to me for 23 years. The one who cried when I came home from Afghanistan. The one who hates the smell of gunpowder. That woman wouldn't be here. That woman would be screaming. So where is she? Fiona's expression flickered. Just for a second. The mask slipped. And I saw it. The micro-expression I'd taught soldiers to detect in interrogation. Contempt. Not for me. For Blake. She's in the basement, Fiona said, her voice different. Colder. With Violet. The real Fiona. The one who thought she could play both sides. The room tilted. The woman in front of me wasn't my wife. She was younger. Same build. Same hair. But the eyes were wrong. The walk would be wrong. I'd been sleeping next to a stranger for weeks. Who are you? I asked. Agent Violet Carter, she said. FBI. I've been undercover as Fiona for 3 months. The real Fiona contacted us. She found the cameras. The microphones. Blake's surveillance network. She volunteered to help us bring him down. But he caught her. 2 days ago. While you were at the VA. Blake pulled a knife. Not the K-bar from before. A smaller blade. Surgical. Congratulations, Professor. You passed the test. Now you get to see what happens when students fail. He lunged. Not at me. At my grandson. Violet moved faster, her training showing. She blocked, took the blade in her shoulder, and swept Blake's legs. He went down hard, head cracking against the desk. From the basement, a voice called up. Victor? It's me. The real me. Fiona. My Fiona. Scared but alive. Violet pressed a hand to her bleeding shoulder. Go. I'll secure him. But Victor? The files. They're real. Blake's partner has them. Not here. At the courthouse. In Logan's chambers. Logan's not your ally. He never was. I ran for the basement door. Behind me, I heard Violet's radio. This is Carter. Subject down. But we have a problem. The partner's in the wind. And he's got the real detonator. The basement was dark. I found Fiona tied to a chair, gagged. Alive. I cut her free. She collapsed into my arms, sobbing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I had to. They threatened Clara. They threatened our grandson. They had videos of everything. Who's they? I asked, holding her tight. Not Blake. Blake's a puppet. It's the partner. The one who taught Blake Recon. The one who taught all of us. She handed me a phone. A video played. Logan Pierce, in his judge's chambers, speaking to someone off camera. Victor will sign. He'll sign to save them. Then we have everything we need. The files. The clearance. The program can continue. Just like Mitchell designed. The camera panned. A wall of photos. Me. Fiona. Clara. My grandson. Every student I'd ever taught. All marked with red X's except one. Blake's photo had a green check mark. And Logan's photo had a title, Project Reignition, Director. The video ended. A final message appeared. Class of 2008 reunion. Tonight. Fort Benning. Bring the files. Or we bring the war home. Fiona's hands trembled against my chest. 12 years of silence collapsed into sobs. They came to me 3 months ago. Said they had evidence you were selling Recon tactics to foreign agencies. Showed me bank accounts in your name. In Geneva. $2 million. I knew it was fake, but they had Clara's phone tapped. They had our grandson's school schedule. They had videos of you training, but edited to look like you were teaching insurgents. I held her steady, feeling her bones through her shirt. Who's they, Fiona? Say the name. Project Reignition. Mitchell's legacy. Logan didn't just inherit his father's position. He inherited his contacts, his offshore accounts, his vision for a private reconnaissance force that answers to no one. From upstairs, a thump. Violet had Blake secured, but I heard her radio crackle with Morgan's voice. We found a real detonator. In a van 3 blocks away. Guy inside is dead. Self-inflicted. But he left a laptop. Victor, you need to see what's on it. I guided Fiona up the stairs. Violet had zip-tied Blake to my old instructor's chair. He was unconscious, a bruise flowering on his temple. Violet's shoulder wound bled through her fingers. She'd sacrificed herself for my grandson, and I didn't know why. Agent Carter, I said, who's running this operation? Really? She met my eyes. Someone who knows Recon isn't about fighting. It's about rewriting the battlefield. Logan Pierce isn't the director. He's the recruiter. The real director died 12 years ago. Officially. Mitchell, Fiona whispered. He's not dead, is he? Violet shook her head. The suicide was staged. He's been in a private facility in Switzerland. Dementia. Logan's been using his name, his authority, his clearance. But the dementia's progressing. He started talking. About 2008. About a mission that went dark. About 3 soldiers who died because of bad intel. My stomach dropped. The mission. The one that got me transferred from field work to teaching. The one that still showed up in my nightmares. Fiona's phone rang. Not her phone. The burner she'd kept hidden in her shoe. She answered, listened, then handed it to me without a word. A man's voice. Weak. Raspy. Victor? It's Quentin. Quentin Mitchell. Blake's half-brother. The one I'd been told died in a training accident in 2010. I'm not dead. I'm dying. Cancer. Same thing that ate my father's mind. I have maybe a month. That's why I'm calling. Blake didn't kill our father. I did. The room tilted. Fiona grabbed my arm. Quentin continued. Dad found out about Project Reignition. About Logan's plan to privatize recon training. He tried to stop it. They made it look like suicide. I helped. I was a prosecutor. I buried the evidence. Then they came for me. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer isn't natural, Victor. It's a message. Who did this to you? The same person who told Blake you were responsible for Dad's death. The same person who manipulated Fiona into wiring money. The same person who's been running both sides of this operation. Logan, I said. No. Quentin coughed, wet and ragged. Logan's a puppet. The real director is someone you trust. Someone who had access to your recon files. Someone who was there the night your 3 men died. Someone who needed those men silenced because they saw something they shouldn't have. I looked at Violet. At Fiona. At Blake, unconscious. Victor, Quentin whispered, check your garage. The package Blake mentioned. It's not a bomb. It's evidence. The kind that gets people like us killed. The line went dead. I moved on instinct. Down the stairs, through the kitchen, into the garage. The package sat on my workbench. Brown paper. No markings. I ripped it open. Inside, a video camera. A mini DV tape. Labeled, Mitchell, Vance, Hayes, 2008 mission debrief. I didn't have a DV player, but Fiona did. In her craft room, the room she'd claimed as her own space. The room no one entered. The tape played. 3 faces filled the small screen. Colonel Mitchell, Colonel Vance, and me. Younger, harder, wearing field gear, not instructor's stripes. Mitchell spoke. The package is secured. 3 hostiles neutralized. No witnesses. Vance, you have the cleanup. Hayes, you have the extraction. Then the camera panned. Showed the hostiles. 3 men in U.S. Army uniforms. My men. The ones who died in the official report. The ones whose families got folded flags and apologies. The ones Mitchell had ordered killed because they'd stumbled onto Project Reignition's first funding stream. Drug trafficking through military supply lines. Vance's voice off camera. Victor doesn't know. He thinks they're enemy combatants. Keep it that way. The screen went black. Then new footage. Recent. A week ago. Fiona, in our kitchen, speaking to someone off camera. Logan. He's getting close. He's asking about 2008. About the 3 men. Logan's voice. Then accelerate the timeline. Activate Blake. Make Victor choose between his family and his honor. He'll choose family. Then we have him. Fiona's face hardened. And if he doesn't, then we do what we did to Mitchell. Stage a suicide. Make it look like guilt. The tape ended. I stood in Fiona's craft room, holding proof that my wife had been working against me, and proof that she'd been trying to save me. The same proof would send Logan to prison, and Vance, and expose a conspiracy that reached into the Pentagon. My phone buzzed. Not Fiona. Not Violet. A number I didn't recognize. The text. Nice try with the judge, old man. Check your garage. I left you a present. P.S. That's not the only copy. I ran back to the garage. Another package sat where the first had been. Inside, a child's drawing. My grandson's work. Stick figures. A house. A family. And in the corner, in a child's wobbly handwriting. Grandpa, the man in the garage says you have to go away or he'll make mommy go to sleep like daddy did. Daddy. Blake. My grandson thought Blake was his daddy. The phone rang. Logan's voice. Victor, I see you found the tape. Here's what happens next. You bring it to the class of 2008 reunion. You hand it to me. I let your grandson go. You go to prison for war crimes. Or I release the unedited version to the press. The one where you give the order to fire. I never gave that order. You're on camera saying the words. Mitchell and Vance edited the rest. It's your word against ghosts. And ghosts don't testify. He hung up. From the house, I heard Fiona scream. Not a sound of fear. A sound of fury. I ran. Found her in the living room, holding another package. Inside, a syringe, a vial, and a photo of her sister, Brooke, also marked with a red X. The note. Tell Victor to hurry. The reunion starts at midnight. And Fiona? If you warn him again, your sister gets the same cocktail we gave Quentin. Cancer takes too long. Fiona looked at me, tears streaming. I wasn't having an affair. I was meeting Quentin. He had proof. But they found out. They've been controlling everything. Even the cancer. It's a weapon, Victor. They weaponized Mitchell's dementia research. They can give anyone cancer. Anyone who talks. My phone buzzed again. Violet. Blake's awake. He's laughing. Said you have 1 hour before the first dose gets released into the water supply. Fort Benning's base water. 3,000 soldiers. All casualties unless you sign the confession at midnight. I looked at the clock. 11:03 p.m. The class of 2008 reunion was real. It was happening. And I was the guest of honor. The garage smelled of motor oil and old memories. The package sat where Blake promised, wrapped in brown paper that looked like it had traveled through hell. My hands shook as I tore it open, not from fear, but from the realization that every move I'd made for 12 years had been predicted by someone who'd studied my Recon manual like scripture. Inside, a child's shoe, my grandson's, and a vial of clear liquid. The note read, 1 drop per gallon. Fort Benning's water tower holds 500,000 gallons. You have the antidote, but only enough for one person. Choose wisely. Q. Not Blake's handwriting. Quentin's. The half-brother who'd confessed to killing his father. The prosecutor who'd buried evidence. The man who was supposedly dying of cancer in a hospice somewhere. My phone rang. The Virginia number again. Quentin's voice was weaker now, like each word cost him blood. Victor, you found the package. Good. That means you're thinking like a Recon man. Now think harder. Who gave me access to your grandson's shoe? Who knew where you kept his spare clothes? Fiona appeared in the garage doorway, her face pale under the single bulb. Brooke, she whispered. My sister. She watches him on Tuesdays. She called me yesterday, said she was being followed. I told her it was nothing. I told her. She stopped. The color drained from her face completely. Quentin, I said into the phone. If you hurt Brooke. I didn't. Logan did. Logan's been dating her for 6 months. She thinks he's a defense contractor. She thinks he's going to marry her. She doesn't know he's been using her to get to you. The world narrowed to a pinpoint. Brooke, the sweet, trusting woman who'd never understood why I left the military. Who'd called me a warmonger at Christmas dinner. Who'd been the only person Fiona could talk to when this nightmare started. Where is she? Fiona grabbed the phone from my hand. Quentin, where's my sister? With Logan. At the reunion site. She's the midnight witness. The one who'll testify that you, Victor, threatened her life if she didn't help you steal Recon files. She's wearing a wire. FBI issued. But Logan's team is listening, not the Bureau. Fiona's knees buckled. I caught her. Why? Why would she? Because Logan told her Victor was having an affair. With me. He showed her photos. Doctored. But convincing. He told her the only way to save her sister's marriage was to help bring you down. She's been recording your conversations for 3 weeks. I thought about the quiet moments. Fiona and I in the kitchen, talking in whispers. Planning. Trying to outthink Blake. Every word captured. Every plan compromised. Quentin, I said, taking the phone back. If you're dying, why help them? Because I'm not dying of cancer. I'm dying of the antidote. The same antidote you're holding. They gave it to me when I tried to expose them. It keeps me alive just long enough to be useful. But it runs out in 6 hours. Unless I get the real formula. The one Logan keeps in his briefcase. The one he'll have at midnight. Fiona stood, wiping her eyes. Then we take it from him. No, Quentin said. You don't take. You trade. The tape. The real one. Not the edited version Logan has. You trade it for the antidote. For me. For Brooke. For the 3,000 soldiers at Fort Benning. The tape proves Logan gave the order to kill those men. Not Mitchell. Not Vance. Logan. He was there. He was a lieutenant in 2008. He wanted to prove himself. He ordered the hit. Then he spent 12 years erasing witnesses. The shoe in my hand felt like lead. Why would Logan keep the real tape? He doesn't know it's real. He thinks it's another copy of the edited version. His ego won't let him destroy it. He watches it. He gets off on it. It's in his briefcase, mixed with his evidence against you. Fiona grabbed her coat. We have to go? Now. Wait. I held up the vial. If this is the antidote, what's the poison? Quentin's laugh was wet with blood. It's not poison. It's a trigger. One drop in the water supply, and it activates a compound already in the water. Logan's been putting it there for months. A biological marker. It doesn't hurt anyone. Unless they have the matching compound in their bloodstream. The one he gave to 3,000 soldiers in their flu shots last month. The one he gave to me. The one he gave to Brooke when he took her to the spa. I looked at the vial. At the shoe. At Fiona's terrified face. At midnight, Quentin whispered, he flips a switch. Everyone with the marker gets sick. Looks like a terrorist attack. He'll be the hero who stops it. With the antidote. The one he'll discover in your possession. You'll be the terrorist. He'll be the savior. Unless you bring him the real tape. The one that shows him giving the order. The line went dead. For real this time. Fiona and I stood in the garage. The weight of 17 years of lies pressing down. The clock read 11:17 p.m. 43 minutes until midnight. Victor, Fiona said, her voice steady now. I know where the real tape is. Not in Logan's briefcase. In the house. The one we lived in on base. In 2008, before Clara was born, there's a wall safe behind the baseboard in the nursery. I put it there. The night Mitchell died, Quentin gave it to me, told me to keep it safe. I thought he was crazy. Why didn't you tell me? Because the safe has a voice lock. It only opens to one phrase. A phrase only you would say. The phrase you said to me the night you came home from that mission. When you thought I'd left you. When you found out I was pregnant. I remembered. The fear. The rage. The relief. The words I'd whispered into her hair. Say it, she said. We need that tape. I closed my eyes. I choose you. I choose us. I choose this family over every mission. From her pocket, she pulled a small device. A voice recorder. She played my words back. The safe in the nursery, wherever it was now, would be opening. Her phone buzzed. A text from Brooke. He's nervous. Keeps checking his watch. Says if Victor's not here by 11:45, he starts the music early. Logan's wearing your uniform, Victor. Your actual uniform from 2008. He says he's you now. Fiona looked at me. What do we do? I looked at the vial. At the shoe. At the clock. We do what Recon taught us. I said. We let him think he's won. Until he shows us where the real detonator is. How do we do that? We give him what he wants. I held up the tape from the garage, the one Quentin sent. We give him a tape. Just not the one he expects. The clock ticked to 11:18 p.m. 42 minutes to rewrite 17 years of mistakes. The clock in my truck read 11:23 p.m. as I swerved onto the base access road. Fiona gripped the dash, her knuckles white. Victor, the water tower. If Logan's serious, he's not serious. He's theatrical. I flashed my retired ID at the gate guard, a kid who couldn't have been older than 19. He waved us through without checking the trunk. In Recon, you learn that authority symbols trump protocol. My base decal and hard stare were worth more than a warrant. Fiona's phone buzzed. Brooke. A video this time. She was in a room I recognized, Logan's chambers at the courthouse. He wasn't there. Instead, Blake sat behind Logan's desk, wearing the judge's robes. He held up a document. Diplomatic immunity. Signed by a real judge. Not Logan. Me. I'm a consular official for a country that doesn't exist on any map. But the seal is real. The UN recognizes it. You can't touch me. The video cut. Replaced by a live feed. Clara's son, sleeping in a room that looked like a military barracks. A needle in his arm, connected to an 4-bag. The label, Psychotropic Trial 7B. Fiona screamed. I almost drove into a light pole. He's drugging him. Just like he drugged me. I looked at her. Really looked. Her pupils were dilated. Her hands had a slight tremor. When did it start? 3 months ago. Coffee. He'd bring me coffee. Said it was from a new shop. I thought it was anxiety. The insomnia. The paranoia. But it was him. Controlling my testimony. Making me compliant. The Recon man in me calculated dosage, timing, half-life. You're still under influence. That's why you couldn't tell me. He chemically locked your ability to betray him. We skidded to a stop outside the old training facility. The building looked dead. But thermal scanners, if Morgan had followed my instructions, would show body heat in the basement. Lots of it. Violet met us at the side entrance. Not the agent from the video. The real Violet. She wore tactical gear, FBI emblazoned on her vest. We have a problem. Blake's immunity is real. Legally real. He married a diplomat's daughter. The marriage was consummated, documented, filed in a country with no extradition treaty. We can't arrest him. We can't even detain him. Then we don't arrest him. I handed her the vial. We extract him. She looked at the clear liquid. This is the antidote. This is a prop. The real antidote is in Logan's briefcase, along with the real tape. But Blake doesn't know that. He thinks this is the only sample. Fiona grabbed my arm. Victor, you can't. If you go in there, he'll what? Kill me? He needs me to sign the confession. He needs me alive until midnight. I checked my watch. 11:31 p.m. Violet, I need you to do something for me. Something I taught in Recon. Something that goes against every FBI protocol. She met my eyes. Name it. Psychological extraction. Blake's been drugging Fiona. He's been drugging Clara's son. He's probably been drugging himself. Amphetamines. Psychotropics. He's unstable. We use that. I taught her the technique in 60 seconds. The rhythm of speech. The tone. The way to break into a subject's loop by mirroring, then distorting. I'd used it on insurgents. On compromised assets. On soldiers who'd seen too much. You're going to be me, I told her. You're going to wear my jacket. My hat. You're going to walk in there at 11:45. Blake's expecting me. He won't look at your face. He'll look at the silhouette. The authority. You're going to tell him the extraction is compromised. That Logan's been arrested. That the water contamination plot is exposed. You're going to break his reality. And if he doesn't break, then I walk in at 11:50 with the real tape. And we find out who he's more afraid of, his dead father or his living partner. Fiona's phone rang. Not a text. A call. She answered, listened, then handed it to me. A child's voice. My grandson. Grandpa? The man says you have to come alone. He says if you bring the lady with the gun, he'll make the medicine go faster. I took the phone. Hey, buddy. You stay strong. Grandpa's coming. Grandpa? He says you're not my real grandpa. He says you're a bad man who hurt people. My heart cracked. Sometimes good men have to do hard things. But I'm your grandpa. That never changes. The line went dead. Fiona collapsed against the wall. He's been poisoning him against you. For weeks. While I was drugged, he was turning our grandson into a witness against you. Violet checked her weapon. We move now? Before he changes the timeline. I stopped her. No. He wants me to rush. Rushing gets you killed. I looked at the training facility. At the windows that should have been boarded but weren't. At the door that should have been locked but stood ajar. He's inside. But he's not alone. Logan's in there. And someone else. Someone who knows Recon. Fiona's eyes widened. The thermal scan. Morgan sent it while you were teaching Violet. She pulled up the image on her phone. Bodies in the basement. 5 heat signatures. Blake. Logan. Clara's son. Brooke. And a 5th. Small. Low body heat. Someone sick. Someone dying. Quentin. He's not in a hospice, I said. He's here. He's the proof. The living evidence that Logan's been testing the biological marker. The cancer weapon. Violet's radio crackled. Morgan's voice, urgent. Victor, we traced the diplomatic immunity. It's real, but the marriage is fake. The diplomat's daughter? She's been missing for 6 months. Presumed dead. Blake's been posing as her husband using forged documents. But here's the kicker. The forger is in the building. We have voice match. It's Quentin. He's forging his own brother's immunity while Logan poisons him. The clock hit 11:38 p.m. Fiona looked at me. You taught me something once. In Recon. The last lesson of the last day. What was it? I remembered. The final class of 2008. The day before the mission that changed everything. The enemy who knows your routine lives in your shadow. But the enemy who knows your shadow lives in your heart. Who lives in your heart, Victor? I looked at the building. At the ghosts inside. I do. And I'm going to walk in there and show them what happens when you train a man to be invisible for 17 years. You don't just teach him to disappear. You teach him to become the thing you fear most. Violet handed me her backup piece. FBI issue. Untraceable. I took it. Not for Logan. Not for Blake. For the man I used to be. The one who'd followed orders without question. The one who'd let 3 men die because he trusted his superiors. At 11:45, I told Violet, you walk in the front. Fiona, you walk in the back. I'm going through the window. The one I loosened in 2015 when they said they were closing this place. I left it that way. For this exact moment. Fiona stared. You knew? I hoped I'd never need it. Recon men hope for peace, but prepare for war. I kissed her forehead. When you see Logan, don't speak. Just show him this. I handed her the vial. Tell him it's the last sample. Tell him you stole it from me. He'll believe you. Because he thinks you're broken. She took it, her hands steady now. The drugs were wearing off. Or the truth was stronger. Victor, she whispered. If we don't, we will. Because I'm not just going in there to save our grandson. I'm going in there to teach one final lesson. I checked my watch. 11:42 p.m. What's the lesson? Violet asked. That you can't weaponize reconnaissance against the man who wrote the manual. I moved to the window. It opened silently. The room beyond was dark, but I could hear breathing. Labored. Sick. Quentin. Welcome to class, Professor. A voice said from the darkness. Logan's voice. We've been waiting. The light snapped on. I stood in my old classroom. My grandson sat at my desk and four in his arm. Brooke stood in the corner, a wire visible under her collar. Clara's son slept in a chair, drugged but alive. Quentin lay on a stretcher, emaciated, dying. He held a detonator. Not for explosives. For the water supply. Logan sat in my instructor's chair, wearing my uniform, my name tag, my face in the mirror every morning for 17 years. Class is in session, he said. Your move. The clock ticked to 11:45 p.m. The classroom lights hummed at a frequency that made my teeth ache. Logan sat in my chair, behind my desk, wearing my name like a skin he'd stolen. Quentin lay on a stretcher in the corner, the detonator resting on his chest like a crucifix. My grandson slept in the chair I'd sat in for 17 years, and four dripping poison into his veins. Brooke stood by the window, her face blank, the wire under her shirt feeding everything to a server somewhere cold. You're late, Logan said, checking a watch that wasn't his. It was mine. The one Fiona gave me on our 20th anniversary. Midnight's in 18 minutes. The water treatment plant's automated system cycles at 12:03. One command, and 3,000 soldiers drink your legacy. I kept my hands visible. You don't want to kill them. You want to control them. Same way you controlled Mitchell. Same way you're controlling Quentin. Quentin's eyes opened. He doesn't control me. I'm already dead. This is just the final deposition. He lifted the detonator. Not a trigger. A recorder. Every word. Every confession. It's all here. The real tape. Not the one Logan has. The one that shows him injecting the biological marker into the water supply himself. Last month. While wearing your uniform. While using your ID. Logan's smile flickered. He's delusional. Cancer's eaten his brain. Then why is he holding the real detonator? I asked. The one that doesn't trigger explosives. The one that triggers immunity. From the hallway, footsteps. Blake entered, not in his usual rage, but calm. Controlled. He held a document stamped with seals I recognized from my time in classified theaters. Diplomatic immunity. Signed by a real judge. Me. I'm the consular official for the Republic of Darien. It's a micronation. Recognized by the UN, established last year. Logan helped. Violet followed him in, her FBI vest gone, replaced by a diplomatic pouch. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Victor, I'm sorry. I was assigned to monitor Blake. But the operation was compromised from day one. Logan's been my handler. Not the Bureau. Fiona stepped from the shadows behind me. Then who called me 3 months ago? Who told me my sister was in danger? Who gave me the number for the FBI tip line? Violet's face hardened. I did. Because Logan ordered me to. It was part of your conditioning. Make you trust me. Make you think you had an ally. Then isolate you completely. She pulled out a syringe. This is the antidote. Real. But I only have one dose. Logan's rules. Someone gets to live. Choose. My grandson stirred. Brooke shifted. Quentin's breathing hitched. For lives. One dose. You're not here to give me a choice, I said. You're here to record me making it. So you can show the world that Victor Hayes, the great Recon instructor, let a child die to save himself. Logan leaned forward. Choose, Professor. Show them what you really are. I looked at the vial. At the 4 people I loved. At the man who'd stolen my life piece by piece. Then I looked at the clock. 11:47 p.m. You're right, I said. I do have to choose. I chose the wall behind Logan. The one with the motivational poster. The one I'd hung in 2008. The one that said, the enemy who knows your routine lives in your shadow. I pulled the trigger. Not at Logan. At the poster. The bullet punched through cheap drywall, into the cavity beyond, into the safe I'd installed when I first took this job, the one I'd told no one about, the one that required a specific voice command to open. My voice, saying the phrase I'd whispered to Fiona the night I came home from the mission that broke me. I choose you. I choose us. I choose this family over every mission. The wall exploded, not from the bullet, from the safe's internal charge, triggered by my voice, triggered by the phrase only I would say. Inside, not files, not tapes, a single photo. Me, Logan, Vance, and Mitchell, taken in 2008, at a bar off base. All of us smiling, all of us drunk, all of us signing something on a napkin. The napkin was framed, the words visible. We swear to protect the program, no matter the cost, no matter the blood. Project Reignition lives. Signed by all four of us. Logan's face went white. That's fake. You forged it. Did I? I asked. Or did we all forge our memories? Fiona stepped forward, holding her phone. I recorded you, Logan. Last week, when you thought I was drugged and compliant. You confessed everything. The water, the cancer weapon, the 3 soldiers. You said Victor was there, but he wasn't. You were. You gave the order. Mitchell tried to stop you. You killed him, made it look like suicide. She played the audio. Logan's voice, clear and arrogant. Victor was always the patsy, the good soldier. He'd follow orders without question. So we gave him orders that made him look guilty, while I built the real operation. Violet moved. Fast. Took Logan to the ground, cuffed him. Diplomatic immunity doesn't cover terrorism. And the Republic of Darien doesn't exist. I should know. I invented it. Blake lunged for the detonator. Quentin's hand moved faster. He pressed the button. Not to trigger. To transmit. Every word, every confession, broadcast to 5 locations. Including the FBI director's office. Including the Pentagon. Including every news station in a 50-mile radius. Class dismissed, Quentin whispered and closed his eyes. The clock struck 11:50 p.m. From outside, sirens. Real ones. Morgan's voice on Violet's radio. We have Logan's team in custody. The water supply is secure. But Victor, we have a problem. Blake's immunity might be fake, but his wife's isn't. She's here, and she's demanding we release him. She's got a legal team and a federal judge on speed dial. Fiona looked at me. His wife. Not his wife, I said. His handler. The real director of Project Reignition. The door opened. A woman entered, flanked by U.S. Marshals. She wore a suit that cost more than my truck. Her hair was silver, cut sharp. Her eyes were the same blue as Logan's. The same blue as Mitchell's. Hello, Victor, she said. I'm Judge Lila Pierce, Logan's mother. And I'm here to take my son home. She held up a presidential pardon. Pre-signed. Dated yesterday. The program continues, she said. With or without you. With or without your family. You have 10 seconds to decide. Join us. Or lose everything. The clock ticked to 11:51 p.m. Judge Lila Pierce held the pardon like a weapon. Her smile was the same one Logan wore. Practiced, perfect, predatory. The program continues, Victor. It always continues. Presidents come and go. But Project Reignition is forever. I looked past her to the marshals. Young men. Early 20s. The age I'd been when I first learned that orders sometimes wore a flag while serving something darker. You boys know what you're protecting? I asked them. The taller one flinched. Just a micro-expression. He knew. Or suspected. In Recon, you learn to read the hesitation. Lila saw it too. Stand down, Marshal. This is classified. Classified from the president. I asked. Or classified from the people who think he's in charge. She moved closer, the pardon extended. Sign the transfer. Give Logan the files. Take your family and disappear. That's the deal. That's always been the deal. I took the paper. Heavy stock. Official seal. The signature was real. The pardon was real. The corruption was real. One question, I said. The 3 soldiers. The ones who died in 2008. Did you know? Her eyes flickered. Just for a second. I wrote the after-action report. I called them heroes. I sent the flags to their mothers. That's not an answer. It's the only one you'll get. The clock ticked to 11:53 p.m. 7 minutes until the water treatment plant cycled. 7 minutes until 3,000 soldiers drank the marker. 7 minutes until Logan's plan became irreversible. Fiona stepped forward. I have the antidote. The real one. Not the prop. She held up the vial. Victor's blood type is O negative. Universal donor. I had it synthesized from his antibodies. The marker in the water? It's designed to react to his specific genetic sequence. He was the original test subject. In 2008, when they injected him after the mission, Lila's mask cracked. You weren't supposed to remember that. I didn't, I said. But my body did. That's why Quentin called me. He found the medical records. The ones you buried with Mitchell. I'm the key. I always was. The marshals looked at each other. The hesitation became doubt. Doubt became fear. They were realizing they'd been guarding monsters. Blake moved. Not toward me. Toward my grandson. The knife came out. Not the K-bar. A scalpel. Surgical. Precise. If I can't have the program, no one can. Least of all a child. Fiona threw the vial. Not at Blake. At the floor. It shattered. The antidote. A clear liquid. Pooled on the wood. 1 drop, she said. That's all it takes to neutralize the marker. But it has to be introduced at the treatment plant. Directly into the main line. And only Victor's blood can do it. She pulled out a syringe. I need to draw your blood. Now. While there's still time. Lila laughed. You think I'll let you? She didn't finish. Violet moved. The marshal moved. The room became a storm of bodies. I moved through it like I'd taught 1,000 soldiers to move. Not fighting. Flowing. Pressure points. Joint locks. The techniques I'd learned from a master in Okinawa. The ones I'd never taught in Recon class because they were too dangerous. Too final. I reached Blake. He had the scalpel at my grandson's throat. The child didn't wake. The drugs kept him under. Blake's hand trembled. Not with fear. With anticipation. You're going to watch him die, Blake whispered. Just like you watched those 3 soldiers die. No, I said. I'm going to watch you remember what I taught you on day 1. I didn't touch the knife. I touched his wrist. The radial nerve. The one that makes fingers open. The scalpel clattered to the floor. I touched his shoulder. The brachial plexus. His arm went numb. I touched his neck. The carotid sinus. Blood pressure drops. Consciousness fades. He collapsed. Not unconscious. Just reset. The way I'd reset 100 soldiers who'd frozen in combat. The way you bring someone back from the edge without saying a word. Class dismissed, I whispered. But he laughed. A wet, ragged sound. You think you won? The bomb in your house is real. Not a decoy. Not theater. Real. Lala put it there. 3 months ago. While you were teaching me recon. While you thought you were so smart. Fiona's phone rang. Not a call. An alert. The security system. Motion detector. Inside our house. The one we hadn't lived in for 3 days. The screen showed a device. Wired. Armed. A timer. Counting down from 7 minutes. The same 7 minutes until the water plant cycled. Lila smiled. Synchronized. Elegant. If you leave to save your house, the soldiers die. If you go to the plant, your house becomes a crater. And all the evidence inside. Mitchell's real files, the medical records, the proof that you were the test subject, it all becomes ash. She pulled out a phone. Choose, Victor. Be the hero to 3,000 strangers. Or be the grandfather to 1 little boy. You can't be both. That's the lesson I've been trying to teach you for 12 years. The clock struck 11:57 p.m. I looked at Fiona. At my grandson. At the syringe in her hand. Draw the blood, I said. Victor, draw it. Then take him to the plant. I'll go to the house. You'll die? I've been dead since 2008. I just didn't know it. Violet grabbed my arm. We can send a team. Bomb disposal, no team. He'll trigger it remotely. It has to be me. He wants me to die in my own home. It's poetic. Fiona drew my blood. I watched the vial fill. Dark red. Life. The key to saving 3,000 men and women who'd never know my name. She kissed me. Hard. Come back. I always do. I ran. Out of the classroom. Into the night. The drive to my house took 6 minutes. I made it in 4. The garage door was open. The device sat on my workbench. Not sophisticated. Not military. Simple. Clean. Effective. The way I'd taught Blake to build them. The timer read 2:34. I didn't try to disarm it. I moved it. Gently. Into the safe I'd built into the floor. The one lined with concrete and steel. The one I'd told no one about. Not even Fiona. I closed the safe. Locked it. The timer hit midnight. The explosion was muffled. Contained. The house shook. Windows shattered. But the structure held. The evidence held. My phone rang. Fiona. The plant. We made it. Your blood worked. The markers neutralized. But Victor, I knew before she said it. The explosion wasn't meant to kill me. It was meant to trap me. To keep me in the house while they extracted Logan. While they reactivated the program. I ran outside. A black helicopter lifted from the training facilities field. Lila's helicopter. Logan in the cabin. Blake beside him. And in the co-pilot's seat, waving like a child on a ride, my grandson. The phone in my hand wasn't mine anymore. It was Blake's. He'd switched them when I touched his wrist. The screen showed a video. Live feed. From inside the helicopter. My grandson looked at the camera. Grandpa, the man says you're not coming. He says you chose the soldiers. He says you chose wrong. The helicopter banked away, into the night, into a future I couldn't follow. Fiona's voice came through the phone I didn't know I had. Victor, come back. We can track them. We can. But I was already moving. Not to the truck. To the garage. To the motorcycle I'd kept hidden under a tarp. The one I'd rebuilt from scrap. The one I'd never told anyone about. The one that still had a full tank. Because Recon men don't just have a plan B. They have a plan Z. And plan Z was simple. Follow the helicopter. Follow my grandson. Follow the war I'd thought ended 12 years ago. The motorcycle started on the first kick. I roared into the night. Not toward the base, not toward safety, but toward the only thing that mattered. The final lesson wasn't about choosing between lives. It was about never letting the enemy think you'd made a choice at all. The motorcycle's engine screamed through the Georgia night, eating miles while the helicopter's lights grew smaller ahead. My phone showed the tracking data. Fiona had slipped a microtransmitter into my grandson's shoe when she hugged him in the classroom. Recon wives learn faster than their husbands. The helicopter banked toward the mountains, toward a facility I'd visited once in 2008. A CIA black site that officially didn't exist. Unofficially, it was where Project Reignition was born, where Mitchell, Vance, Logan, and I had signed our names in blood, where 3 soldiers had been buried in unmarked graves because they'd asked too many questions about the money trail. The bike's headlight caught the chain-link fence. It had been cut. Recently. For me. They wanted me to follow. This was the final exam. The one I'd been riding for 17 years without knowing it. I ditched the bike a half-mile out, moved through the trees on foot. The facility was a concrete bunker built into the mountain. The helicopter sat on a landing pad, rotors still spinning. No guards. That was the sign. In Recon, no opposition means you're expected. The main door was open. I walked through. Inside, the room was a perfect replica of my classroom at Fort Benning, right down to the squeak of the 3rd floorboard. Logan sat at my desk, my grandson on his knee, reading from my old Recon manual. Lila stood by the chalkboard, writing names. The 3 soldiers from 2008. Fiona's sister Brooke. Quentin. Vance. Mitchell. All crossed out. Welcome home, Victor, Lila said. This is where you belong. Where you always belonged. Logan looked up. We had to be sure. Had to know if you were still one of us. I stared at my grandson. He wasn't drugged anymore. He was awake. Reading. Absorbing. Being groomed. Project Reignition isn't about private armies, Lila said. It's about legacy. About ensuring the next generation understands that some wars can't be won with honor. They require sacrifice. Hard choices. The kind you made in 2008. I didn't make any choice in 2008, I said. You made it for me, while I was unconscious. Semantics. She gestured to the wall. A screen lit up. Video footage. Me. In this same room, 17 years ago. Younger. Bleeding from a head wound. You signed the napkin. You agreed to the program. You just don't remember because we erased it. Until now. The video played. My voice, slurred from trauma, saying the words, I'll do it. I'll teach them. I'll make them invisible. Just save my men. Logan smiled. We saved them, Victor. We saved them by making them disappear. Into the program. Into Project Reignition. Those 3 soldiers? They're not dead. They're instructors. At facilities like this. All over the world. Teaching our Rowe curriculum. The screen split. 3 faces. My men. Older now. Harder. Teaching rooms full of children. Children with blank eyes and sharp knives. We needed you to take the fall, Lila said, so we could operate in the light. The water contamination, the cancer weapon, the diplomatic immunity, all theater to make you look like the threat. So when we emerged as the heroes, no one would question our authority. Logan stood, setting my grandson down. The boy walked to me, hugged my leg. Grandpa, they said you were coming home. They said you'd teach me now. I knelt, level with his eyes. What did they teach you, buddy? That some people have to die so others can be safe. That it's okay if the bad guys look like good guys. As long as we win. I looked at Lila. At Logan. At the legacy they'd built while I taught honor in a classroom. Here's my final lesson, I said. The enemy who knows your routine lives in your shadow. But the enemy who knows your shadow lives in your heart. And you taught my grandson to see shadows everywhere. To trust no one. To be invisible even to his family. I stood, picking him up. But you forgot one thing. What's that? Lila asked. Invisibility is a reconnaissance tool, not a way of life. And you made him visible to the one person who matters. I pulled the pin on the flashbang I'd palmed from Violet's vest. It detonated. Not light. Not sound. Smoke. The room filled with white, choking chemical smoke. Not from the device. From the ventilation system. Fiona's work. She'd been here. Before us. She'd promised to follow. She'd delivered. When the smoke cleared, the marshals were coughing. Logan was on the floor, cuffed. Lila was screaming into a phone that had no signal, Fiona's doing. And my grandson was safe in my arms. The sirens outside were real. Morgan's team. The FBI. The honest ones. The ones Violet had contacted when she realized the rot went too high. Lila's presidential pardon meant nothing when the president himself was on a plane, watching the live feed, learning that his signature had been forged by a judge who thought she was more powerful than the office. The helicopter pilot was arrested. The facility was seized. The 3 soldiers, my men, were extracted from their hidden compounds and brought home. Traumatized. Broken. But alive. Quentin died 3 days later. Real death. Not the staged kind. But he died knowing his confession had brought down the program. His funeral was small. Fiona and I were the only ones there. He'd left a letter. Inside, a key. To a safety deposit box in Switzerland. Containing the real Project Reignition files. The ones that named every politician, every general, every contractor who'd profited from making children into weapons. Fiona and I used those files. Not for revenge. For insurance. The program stays buried as long as our family stays safe. A mutual assured destruction of secrets. Clara's son recovered. The drugs left his system. But the lessons, that trust is earned, that family means everything, that some wars are fought in living rooms, not deserts, those stayed. Logan and Lila await trial. Diplomatic immunity doesn't cover crimes against humanity. Blake's fake marriage was annulled. He's in a psychiatric facility, not prison. Because some punishments are worse than bars. Having to remember who you were before you became a monster. Victor, me, I retired. Again. This time for real. We moved. New state. New name. New everything. But I kept the motorcycle. And I kept one lesson, framed above our new door. The enemy who knows your shadow lives in your heart. Evict them daily. My grandson still asks about Recon. I teach him one thing: how to see the good in people, how to trust, how to love. The rest? He can learn that from someone else. Because the final lesson of Project Reignition was this: the bravest thing a soldier can do is put down his weapon and pick up his family. Now, here's what I need from you, the ones who've walked this road with me. Where are you watching from? Drop your city, your country, your corner of this wild world in the comments. I want to see how far this story traveled. And what do you want next? The epic revenge of a mother who lost her child? The slow burn betrayal of a husband who discovers his wife's secret kingdom? Or the raw, unfiltered truth of a soldier who comes home to a war he never left? Tell me, because these stories aren't mine anymore. They're ours. And your voice, your comment, your like, your subscription, it's the only immunity that matters. It protects the truth. It keeps the light on. So hit like if this wrecked you in the best way. Subscribe for more stories that don't flinch. And comment with your story request. I'll read every single one. The darkest one wins. Because in this lab, we don't just tell betrayal stories. We live them. We learn from them. And we make damn sure the bad guys never see the end coming. See you in the next chapter, wherever that may be.